Hi guys, my name is Ludi and this is my husband Luis, and we are so excited that you decided to stop by Reconnected Love.
Make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons so you can be notified every time a new video drops.
We pray that these stories bless and encourage you on your journey as you wait. And don't forget to share them with a friend. See you soon!
Welcome back. You are here for part 2 of the Jean-Francois love story. If you haven't seen part 1, however, I would say find that and watch it first so this one can make a lot of sense. The last time we learned that they went through so many different things, from teen pregnancy to marriage with someone else, then divorce, and then reconciliation. Man, it was such a great story. But now, get ready for part 2. Here, we're gonna learn little things of even how their wedding went and how God was in the midst of it all. It was such a powerful moment. I loved it, and I know you're gonna love it too. So stay tuned.
There was something that I willfully chose to do, and I knew I should not do this. I knew going into it, I should not do this, but I was like, man, I just wanna have some fun right now. Boom, let's just do it. So I willfully chose that path, and I vividly remember when I chose that path, this Edwin with the halo started going away. And for that 4-year time period, he kind of just went away altogether. And, even to this, I say to this day, I'm trying to get, like, he's back, but not as strong and with as much authority as he had back when I was younger, right?
Okay.
But anyway, I say all that to say,
Those 4 years.
It's funny, like, I never knew this, but during my 4 years where I was moving away from God, you were moving closer to them. I didn't know you were moving closer to them during that time frame, but I know I had that break. And so during us reconnecting our love, I was also reconnecting my relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I have to give credit to a business opportunity, because through that business opportunity, I helped reconnect and reestablish my relationship with God. And truth be told, I learned more about godly principles, more about how I should walk as a dad, how I should walk as a husband, how I should conduct myself in a, let's just say, a kingdom way or a godly way through that business than I did through any church that I attended to at that time frame in my life. So so for me, it was very important, because even to this day, that through that business, I still continue to learn how to be a better father, how to be a better husband. And a lot of the books that I've read to help me down that path came from there.
So it's now 2010-ish, and we're both on this journey of this 2-part journey. Part of it is just kind of living life, with Trey, with Cameron, and just us kind of just going with the flow of things as we usually did. And then there's that other part where we want to stick to learn more about and live by godly principles. Mm-hmm. And fast forward, 3-4 years, we get married.
Yeah, but there's certain things I want to talk about when I say fast forward those 3-4 years, because during that time frame of us, trying to develop a stronger relationship with God, as you pointed out earlier, we did find Trinity Church, right? And then from finding Trinity Church, I know I got baptized first, and then eventually you and the kids got baptized. Mm-hmm. But that helped us together to, I guess, reconnect with God as a couple, mm-hmm. right? And we started giving more priority and more emphasis on getting our God relationships right. So from 2010 to 2014, because we got married in 2014, at some point we started living together, right? Because it started with us living in separate households, mm-hmm. but doing things together because of the kids, but then eventually kind of just, like you said earlier, like you mentioned earlier, where we moved like a family, but we weren't really officially a family, mm-hmm. right? So our version, and this is definitely not God's version of it, right? But this is just our story, our version of, okay, well, we're moving like a family. We feel the way we feel about each other. Hey, let's just move in, right? Because that's what a lot of people think is the next.
Good idea at the time.
It's a great idea. Hey, instead of us paying two different rents and stuff like that. Well, I remember what was happening is you were gonna move out of your parents' house, because when you moved back from Sarasota, you moved into your parents' house, and then you were gonna move into your own apartment. You started finding apartments, and then during that time frame, my dad passed away. I'm sorry, actually, my grandmother passed away first, and then wait, I got that wrong. What happened? My mom. Oh, there was a health emergency with my mom, and then that led to my mom and my dad having to downsize out of the house that we had at the time. And then eventually my dad passed away, right? And then eventually, shortly, a few months later, my grandmother passed away. But all of that happening, that led to, hey, let's just move in together. And we did move in together. 2011-ish, I think, 2010-ish, 11th, whatever time frame that is. So from the time we moved in together with each other, we were still operating as a family. We were fake familying, right? If I was
fake familying,
and it was going great because, again, the nature of our relationships and how we were living our lives, we were moving as a unit, but we weren't an official unit in God's eyes, right? But us not knowing what we didn't know at that time frame, we were just thinking everything is kosher, everything is copacetic. So yeah, individually we were pursuing relationships with God, but one thing that we didn't realize during that 3 to 4 year time period was we didn't have, like, us pursuing our relationship with God, the relationship between us wasn't right in God's eyes, because now we're just cohabitating in the same place. We have these kids, but we're not, we're not doing it right.
We weren't doing it right.
In the world's eyes, we were doing it right. In the world's eyes, it was like, oh man, yeah, they're a great couple. They got kids, and yeah, they're not married, but things are great.
But it's okay.
Yeah, but it's okay. Things are great going between them, right? But in God's eyes, it was like, oh, I'm not blessing this, even though things were going good. And when I say, I don't want to paint the picture, like during that time. Actually, here, and let me be very detailed about that, because I think that's important to our story, right? So during that time frame, the relationship was good, the household was good, right? Because we're raising the kids together, and the kids were happy, in sports and stuff like that. We were happy, but I believe that anything that we tried to do together, like if you and I were trying to work on something together, that wasn't good. But again, as a quote unquote family, right, or fake family, things were good. According to the word, generally speaking, in the world's in the world's eyes, looking in, everything was good. But if there was something really, really important that you and I were trying to work on together and make it happen, there was, always some type of friction. That's what I
remember some of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, that's a 3-4 year time period, and going back to business, teaching me. My mentor in that business is the one that pointed out to me, like, hey, have you ever considered how you're living? I'm like, what you mean how I'm living? I'm straight, I think at that time frame, we were in our mid-30s at that time frame, right? Yeah, we were early 30s. We're in our early 30s at that time frame. And I'm like, yeah, we're straight, we got a good life. We got our 2 kids, we raised them together. And he's like, yeah, but y'all not married, so, and basically he's the one who helped. Actually, him and his wife, my mentor, my business mentor, him and his wife is the one that helped plant the seed, not even plant the seed, but just open up my eyes to realize, like, wow, we can move forward a whole lot better if we do this right under God's eyes. Like, the way we're living is cool, right? But if we do it right,
to us.
Yeah, cool to us, cool to the world. But if we do it the right way, there would be so much more blessings over that. And I may or may not have told you this, but that's one of the main reasons why I proposed. Not that I didn't want to propose, but that really, instead of me taking another 2 or 3 years to decide, oh yeah, maybe let me continue seeing how this goes. Like, let me continue, put my toe in the water and just like, all right, just playing with it for another X amount of years till I wanted to make that decision, my mentor, he's the one who really solidified that, had me thinking and really viewing how we were living. I'm like, all right, you know what? Nope. Let me stop. Let me stop the procrastination. Let me stop all of that. And hey, let's just do this right.
And in that same time frame, again, I'm still, as you said, we were individually still trying to pursue our relationships with God.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I don't know why, but something came into my spirit and said, I am not meant to be a long-term girlfriend. I am not meant to just...
Excuse me?
But I'm the daughter of the Most High, so I deserve the best. But at that time, I remember feeling, thinking, hearing, I am not meant to be a long-term girlfriend. Because
I never knew that.
What example are we setting for our son and our daughter now? So are we teaching Trey that, he can shack up and it'll be perfectly fine? Are we teaching Cameron that she can just move in with the guy and just live with him and not expect a commitment, not expect a godly commitment? So it helped me to reframe and remind myself of, my faith. And if I'm really seeking God's face and I'm really trying to live in a godly way, and if we're trying to set a godly example, we're failing miserably by the way we're living. So while your business mentor is having this conversation or these conversations with you, I'm now having conversations with God about who am I destined to be? Who did God call me to be? And a few months later, on my birthday, somebody proposed to me, and here we are.
Who proposed? Who's
this guy?
Yeah, it's wow, it's interesting to hear that, because like I said, my mentor did a lot of eye-opening and peeling back the onions as far as how we were living at that time, because honestly, I was cool with it. I was like, and I think you were cool.
I was too. I was too until that moment.
I thought you were cool with it, not knowing what was going on, in your mind spiritually. But yeah, I'm like, all right, yeah, we cool. Everything is good. So, why change it? Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Yeah, that's
but we
what
were
the
broke and we didn't even know it.
Exactly. We were broke. We didn't know it. But yeah, it's interesting to hear that. Mm-hmm. So, we proposed. And a lot of people...
Even that was a family affair, because you had Trey and Cameron in on it.
Yeah. Do you want to share?
We don't have to go all into that.
Okay.
Actually, I do want to say this one thing. It was very meaningful that you included the kids in your wedding proposal to me, because at that time, again, we were doing literally everything together, and including the kids in the wedding proposal, I didn't know it at that time. It's something that I learned later. Not only did they really, really want to see us get married, they needed that vision. They needed us to set that example for them. Yeah. And, in the years after you proposed and, since we've been married and we continue to do life together in a godly way, the kids, now that they're young adults, often talk about how much they really, really wanted that for us when they were younger children. So again, all the glory to God. Thank God, you had your mentor coaching you and I had the Holy Spirit coaching me. But what we didn't know at the time was we were setting a foundation for our kids.
Exactly. Yep.
Not even realizing that we're creating a foundation for them that they desperately wanted. And so again, it's just so awesome how God knows what we need when we need it. And I'm just thankful that we were both obedient to the voices who we had to hear it from in order to make it happen and do it in God's way.
No, I agree. And I didn't realize it until you just said it. But yeah, you're right. God knows what we need, even when we don't realize we know that we need it. Because I never took the kids into consideration when it came to, proposing and us getting married. Mm-hmm. Meaning I didn't take into consideration their perspective. Mm-hmm. And exactly what you said, 100%, they needed they needed for that to happen, and it was important for them to see it happen.
So much so that Trey was your best man, one of your best men, and Cameron was one of my bridesmaids. And again, because we did life together, including the kids in the wedding party, including the kids in the wedding planning, which didn't take long, by the way, because you proposed on my birthday, and by July we were married. It just felt so seamless. Like oftentimes you see women planning their wedding 3-5 years out, and there's all this stress and there's all this bridezilla, and it was okay. Look, Edwin knew what he wanted. I knew what I wanted. You had your vision. I had my vision. I think I just showed you a picture from Pinterest. This is what I would like the wedding reception to look like. You completely took that vision, made it happen. I would even say you planned the wedding. I bought my dress. We found a venue together, but outside of that, again, it was just so seamless. Like who plans plans and executes the wedding of your dreams in 6 months? Like that's only God's hand at work. And speaking of God's hand at work, I remember you telling me the story of while I'm, I guess, still putting on my final touches to get ready to walk down the aisle, there's all this panic going on. So now we're talking about the wedding day.
Chaos.
There is chaos, there is panic, there is so much going on. Unbeknownst to me, I'm in the dressing room. My dad casually walks over to me. He asks me if I'm ready. I tell him yes. He tells me I look beautiful. I tell him thank you. And he says, I just need to tell you one thing. It's about to storm outside. We're having an outdoor wedding. And he says, I don't want to scare you, but you need to go now because it is about to storm and wet every single guest out there. And I said, okay, let's go. So now you tell your side of things.
So, let me just take it a step back before we actually go into the wedding, right? Let's talk about the planning of it because you mentioned that. So, my mentor got my mind right as far as our relationship, right? And, so from the time I made the decision, okay, I'm going to propose, and I ended up proposing and you saying yes. From that time period, like in my mind, it was like, there was no indecision, there was no half step, and it was like, we doing this, we doing it all the way. And I clearly saw the path, right? So, us choosing to get married within 6 months, I think we might give people the impression like we were trying to rush it just to make it look good in God's eyes or in anyone's other person's eyes. And that wasn't the case. It just happened to be 6 months. Like, it's not like we intentionally picked the date, July 18th, right? We intentionally picked the date, but it wasn't because we were trying to rush. It was more, everything was thought out carefully. So we picked the date specifically 7/18, right? And that just happened to be 6 months later. But every part of that planning, I remember it was like, I prayed on it and I remember feeling comfort. It's not like God spoke to me, but I remember just having that peace. And more importantly, I was really picking up I was really learning how to increase my faith, right? And trust in God. And again, I got to give credit to my business mentor because there's a lot of things that he had me read and, scriptures that he was dropping on, him and his wife were dropping on me at that time frame. So because my level of faith had increased so much in God at that time frame, in my mind, there was no panic or fear, or I didn't feel rushed. I felt like, okay, we got
very much just like,
cool. We're gonna do this.
This is what we're gonna do.
Yeah, so
and then this is what we're gonna do.
The whole planning process, I was 100% comfortable with it. I no stress free or anything. Like I was stress free. There was no stress, and I actually two things I want to talk about with the planning. So we planned a outdoor wedding
in July.
In the middle of summer, rainy season in Miami,
hurricane
right?
season.
Excuse me, hurricane season in Miami, Florida, right? So, who does that? But at the time of planning, I didn't even think about, what if it rains, right? Like there was no contingency plan because in my mind, I'm like, no, I already prayed on this. God's got this, man. Look, we getting married. It's going to be a beautiful day, not worrying about the rain. So, fast forward to wedding day, like we planned the whole thing out. Actually, as we're planning the whole thing out, everything kind of just fell into place, right? Everything fell into place. Again, no stress. And I vividly remember at least 3 or 4 different times between January, when we got engaged, and July, various people saying, you getting married in July? Yeah. It's an outdoor wedding? Yeah. What if it rains? And I'm like, listen, it's not going to rain.
That was your response every single
time someone said,
100%.
What if it rains?
No
Even our wedding planner was like, okay, so what's the backup plan just in case it rains? Because you guys already getting married.
There is no backup plan.
It's not going to rain. It's not going to rain. And that confidence was because I was placing my faith in God. And like I said, that was a faith walk for me, but I knew there's certain things that I do and I'm confident within myself, right? And I think some people are like that. You know, you're confident in your own abilities and your own, like you being able to get this done. But in that scenario, I can't control the weather, but I was 1000% confident that it was not going to rain because I had faith in God. Like I said, I prayed on it, boom. And because of things that I've learned on faith at that time frame, it built me up to that. So the day of the wedding, my best man, he flew in from North Carolina, and him and I are chilling that morning. And I vividly remember this. We were in the house. We live in Miami, but we got married in Miramar, right? And that morning, bright sunny skies. I mean, not a cloud in the sky. Sun is out. Typical hot summer day in Miami. Perfect summer day. So I woke up that day, I looked outside, and it wasn't like I was like, yes, thank you, Lord. I was like, okay, yep. I knew this was going to happen, right?
That's what I expected.
This is what I expected. And my boy was like, all right, cool. So I remember we eating breakfast, me and my best man, we're getting ready. And right around 12 o'clock is when we had to leave to go to the hospital. We had to leave to go to the place where we were getting married. And I remember we get inside the car, still sunny. And as we jump on 95 and we're heading north to, Broward, you just see these rain clouds rolling in, right? But me and my friend are having a conversation. Me and Charles are having a conversation. And as we're talking, I'm driving. I saw the rain. Oh, here's not worse, but here's the funny part. So in Miami, as we're on 95, everything south, clear, sunny skies. Beautiful. But everything north, where where Miramar, the direction that it was, you're seeing the clouds coming in. And in my mind, I wasn't sweating it. I'm driving, we chilling, we talking, we having conversations. And during that conversation, Charles goes, yo, Ed, I know you said it wasn't gonna rain, but And I didn't even let him finish the statement. I was like, it's not gonna rain. He's like, I hear you, brother, but do you see it's not going to rain? Let's finish the conversation. So we kept on the conversation. And Charles, the type of dude, he saw my reaction. He was just like, all right, I'm gonna stick with you.
He said it's not gonna rain.
He said it's not gonna rain. He's like, I know in his mind, he was thinking, man, I tried to warn him, but whatever. But in my mind, it was like, it's just not gonna rain. So we get to the venue, right? And actually, let me preface it by saying another thing. Before I go into what happened, I want to preface it by saying I've been in countless weddings, like in weddings, not just attending, but I've been in many different weddings. You know this. I would say at least 12 to 15 weddings. Out of those 12 to 15 weddings, if not more, I've been either a best man or within the wedding party at least 8 times, 8 or more. So by that time, and I think that was, hindsight 2020. I think that's something that God, that's why I talk about the experiences, right? I would not have had the experiences if we had gotten married early. Mm-hmm. So because I've been in so many different weddings, I had the understanding and I found the peace of knowing that on a wedding day,
expect the unexpected.
Expect the unexpected. Yeah, expect the unexpected. There's a lot, there's all types of craziness. Through all the weddings I've been through, all types of craziness happens. Like, I've never seen a wedding play out the exact same way the person planned it. Mm-hmm. Something always goes wrong. So in my mind, I'm thinking, something's gonna go wrong. But at the end of the day, I came in that day knowing, okay, something's gonna go wrong. But at the end of the day, what's most important is we're gonna be married. Mm-hmm. And I had that mentality because all the other weddings that I was a part of, that's something that I would either say as the best man or the groomsman to the person, to the groom. Hey, dude, don't worry about it. This went wrong. Don't worry about it. And look, don't focus on this issue right here. Just know that at the end of the day, you and whoever the wife was at the time, y'all be married. So me saying that, experiencing that brought me peace that day. I was not nervous at all. Actually, I remember hearing people saying, dude, you're pretty calm for being married on your wedding. I'm like, man, whatever. But we get to the venue, and yep, those clouds, like you can see those clouds continue to come in. Everything's south,
That's funny,
clear and
when
sunny
I got to the venue, I don't remember seeing any clouds.
That's what I'm saying. I got there, I think, after you. So as we got there, I'm seeing those clouds rolling in, but I'm not paying attention. Cool. Or should I say, I'm not giving it any credits to it, right? So we get in, and I remember the first thing, there was something wrong with how they were setting up the decorations. So I was like, no, this is wrong, blah, blah, blah. You're getting dressed, you don't see any of that, right? But then there was a lot of little things that were going wrong, and I'm just redirecting it, but I'm just cool. And the biggest thing that went wrong that I vividly recall was the DJ messes up, and he drops our wedding cake. Like 10 minutes before we're supposed to walk out and actually go down the aisle, right? So he's setting up his
the lighting.
He was setting up the lighting because he had his speakers and he had a light next to it. And that was right near where the wedding cake, and the way we designed our wedding cake was it was a 4-tier wedding cake, right? So the bottom was a cake, right? The second tier was cupcakes, right? Which was a little bit smaller than the bottom part. And then the third tier was more cupcakes, right? Which was smaller than the third tier. And then the top tier was another smaller cake. So, it kind of looked like, somewhat of a Christmas tree, if you would kind of think, skinny at the top, fat at the bottom, but it was cake, cupcakes, cake. So all I remember is I was in the room at the time because my we had a military wedding, right? So we had a military wedding, and part of that was a military ceremony. So my boys, they were practicing with their swords and they were doing their thing. So I'm not overseeing it, but I'm watching them doing it. We cracking jokes, we doing that. Things are being set up. And all I hear is like a crash, like a commotion. And then I hear like, oh my God, right? So I look around and I see the DJ on the ground and I'm like, and then I hear somebody's like, yo, they dropped the wedding cake. And then my mom like, oh, really? Like, come on, dude. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it pissed me off, right? It did piss me off. But when I went over there, we were able to salvage, thank God the bottom layer of the cake didn't completely fall over. It tipped over, so it kind of like leaned. But the very top layer and the second layer completely fell over. Him or somebody close to him caught the third and fourth layer. So, long story short, I'm like, all right, yeah, you completely messed this up. And he's apologizing. And I'm like, listen, we don't have time for this. It's 10 minutes. We got to go. So, hey, let's just dress it up however we can dress it up. And let's get that thing going. And I remember, I don't know who it was, but somebody from your bridal shop was like, oh my God, they dropped the cake. And they're making a big commotion. We need to go tell Wendy. And I'm like, no.
That's the message that came back to me. Edwin's words were, don't tell Wendy.
Yeah, so I was a little bit more looser with my words back then, right? So let's just say that. So I remember like, yo, you don't say anything. No one tells Wendy anything. She does not need to know. No, but we need to tell. No, and I can't remember who it was. I just remember like.
Don't say anything.
I remember my emotions was like, yo, I will choke you if you don't say nothing to my wife, man. None of this is going over there. So in the middle of that happening, me trying to stop people from coming and tell you what happened, right? Someone else runs in from outside, because by this time, all the guests are outside. They're already seated and they're getting ready. They're making announcements. Okay, it's gonna begin in like 10 minutes or whatever, right? So everyone's outside and somebody comes rushing in. Again, don't remember who it was, but I think it was somebody on your family. And they were like, yo, we need to start the wedding right now. It's about to rain, right? So I'm already like, kind of pissed off that this dude messed up my wedding cake, but I'm like, all right, we're just gonna get past this. So I remember I've been like, yo, shh, be quiet, right? Just not those words. Yo, be quiet. Take that outside, man. Don't mention none of that. Get this out of here. It's not gonna rain. It's not like I got mad with. It might have been Reggie. I don't know who it was, but somebody was just freaking out. Like, yo, take your behind outside. Like, go outside. Don't say a word
because
it's not gonna rain. Don't worry about it. We got this. Just go outside, sit down with everybody else. I just need you to just set your trap and just go outside, right? So he leaves, and I remember your dad coming around too. And so it's funny hearing that your dad said that to you, because I don't know if he said that to you before he came to me or if he said that to you afterwards, right? But I remember him saying, Edwin, it's good. And I was like, Pop, let's not talk about that. Not right now, Pop, because like by that time I'm tired of hearing people talking about it's raining. Right now, mind you, I'm inside, so I don't know what it's looking like outside. Right. But I'm inside. I'm like, it's not gonna rain. Like, why does everybody keep saying this? Like in my mind, it was really perplexing. Why does everybody keep saying this? Right. So, all right, I'll make this story short. So, I'm trying to finish wrapping up. Right. So I calm everybody down. I'm like, okay, listen, let's just get this show on the road. I told Tessa, because I remember Tessa came. She was like one of the calmest people in your wedding party, right? So I was like, hey, Tessa, listen, just go tell Wendy, hey, we need to just get things rolling. Whatever you got to do, let's wrap this up and get this out. She was like, all right, I got it. I'm not going to let anybody tell. I was like, Tessa, don't let anybody talk to her but you, all right? No one. So she went, she played her position, right? So I get all my guys ready. We start lining up the wedding train, right? So she can come out. And when I go outside, I realize why everybody's freaking out, right? Because literally,
the sky is gray and filled with storm clouds. It's
gray, right? It's gray and filled with storm clouds. However, by the time I get out there, it's like if this is the whole entire venue, right? We're in the middle of it. The storm clouds literally, like I know God's hand was in this because the storm clouds were all around where we were at. So it's like if you look up, you could kind of see it's light gray above us, right? But to the north, south, east, and west, it's a dark gray. So it looks like these storm clouds were just surrounding us. So in my mind, as long as I looked up and I seen a little bit of gray of where we're at, in my mind, I'm like, okay, we're good. Storms are around.
A little bit of sun.
A little bit of sun. It's gray, but a little bit of sun, but dark gray all around us. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, we straight. So I go outside. I'm like, yeah, okay, we're good. Like, I don't know why everybody's tripping. So long story short, we walk down the aisle, we get married, blah, 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 right?
Not a single raindrop.
Not a single raindrop at all. Not a single raindrop.
The
whole entire wedding, no rain at all.
Reception.
The reception, everything. It did not rain.
No raindrops.
But what I didn't know, right, was after the fact, after we get married and we're in the reception and we're doing stuff, we're drinking, eating cake, whatever, toasting, doing that stuff. After all that done, multiple people came up to me, and one of my good friends, he comes up to me. He was like, yo, he's like, God, he's like, I just witnessed, this is what he said. He said, I just witnessed a miracle. He's like, yo, you don't understand. God's blessing your marriage. And I'm like, what do you mean, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Lewis said that.
Oh.
Lewis said that. Lewis was like, I'm talking about Lewis and Adam.
Yeah.
So Lewis comes, he's like, he's like, I just witnessed a miracle. It's a miracle. And he's like, I'm telling you, whatever you and Winnie got going, God's had his hand on it. God blessing you guys. And I'm like, why do you say that? He's like, yo, it was gonna rain. He's like, there was storm clouds. He's like, it was black, it was gray. Like he's like, people started getting up and was thinking about moving the chairs on their own because there were so much dark clouds out there. But he was like, by the time you started walking out, he said, from the minute you walked out and had everybody lined up, he said, a miracle happened. He said, the gray, he said, he said, we watched the clouds open up. He said, we watched the storm clouds open up. And he was like, I literally thought it was, I was telling Ann, hey, look, any minute now, we're just gonna, we were picking our spot on where we could find some shade so we won't get rained on. And I was like, wow, I didn't know.
And you know what's funny about that? While I'm sure they weren't the only wedding guests who were planning their strategy on how to leave. Mm-hmm. Remember, in that same venue space attached to it was a graduation ceremony happening.
Yeah.
So while our wedding guests are probably trying to figure out how to leave, we have people who exited a graduation ceremony who came to join our wedding. They just stood around and asked, hey, can we observe the wedding? And we're like, yeah, no problem. Because I remember before my dad coming to me to tell me it's time to walk out, several people said, oh my gosh, you're the bride? Can I watch? And I'm like, yeah, why not? So while our wedding guests are probably nervous and trying to plan their, contingency, where am I going to find cover? We've got all these other, tens of people who are trying to come to the wedding.
Yeah.
So that's really ironic. But in the end, I think that's been the theme of our marriage thus far is, at least that's something I can say that I have learned from you is we both have our relationships with God, and we're both, this is Edwin, this is me, and this is God up at the top, and we're, both striving toward the top, striving for that relationship with God while still striving for a relationship with one another. Something that I, on this end, continue to observe you doing on this end is exercising that faith, exercising that faith walk, which the way that you are so convicted in your faith is something that I could say as a wife, you have taught me. It's something that as a wife, I could say, as a husband, you have taught me, and as a wife, I have been able to emulate my faith walk based on what I see in you. Because since our wedding day, of course, it hasn't been a cakewalk. Like any other marriage, there's ups and there's downs. But what I could say is that I see the faith that you bring to these different challenging situations that we have, and that's through pregnancies, and that's through job changes and life changes, and the loss of loved ones, and just different situations that we've been through as a married couple. If not for your faith, I don't know how much we would have accomplished as a couple and as a family, because your conviction, again, as a husband, as a father, as a man of God, as a kingdom man, continues to lead us in our journey toward God.
You guys have literally such a lifetime movie network. I need some popcorn to watch this. I think I'm going to tell the people get some popcorn ready. But it's amazing because since third grade, before even you guys knew each other, God kind of weaved this community. He connected you guys. And so now after everything, having a teenage marriage or teenage pregnancy, and then getting married, going to war, other relationships, and yet God said, Edwin and Wendy, you guys are called to be married. You guys are called to be together. Do you think you're at a point where you kind of can see God's purpose in your marriage? Why, through all of that, years and decades, that God is like, no, this is the end result, that you two people have to come together?
I would say yes. Part of, I don't know the full purpose, but part of what I believe God's purpose is manifesting, or has manifested through us, is through our marriage, setting the example for our children, for our parents, for our nieces and our nephews and our extended relatives and our children's friends, and anyone who is even remotely affiliated with us, setting the example of what a godly marriage looks like, which should not and cannot be confused with a perfect marriage, because we are not, neither of us are perfect, therefore we cannot be a perfectly married couple. But when we look at the different relationships in our lives, whether, our family, our parents, our siblings, or, though we have marriages in our families that were long-standing, we're talking 50 plus years, or 20 plus years, I don't know that I would assign the label to even those marriages. I would say that they are long-term, but I don't know that I would say that they are godly. And it's not to say that those folks don't believe in God, but the way we've learned to do marriage, and even before we got married, we did a premarital class through church, which taught us a lot about what God expects from the husband according to the Word of God. what God expects of me as a wife according to the Word of God. And us learning those principles while also talking about other things such as finances and raising children and gender roles. And, because Edwin's lifestyle or upbringing is very similar to mine in a lot of ways, but very different from mine in a lot of ways. So how are we going to come together with his experiences, me bringing my experiences, and making that work in a way that honors God? And I believe even through our 6-year-old child who's recently been asking us about marriage and relationships, and our teenage daughter who she and her friends are making comments about the fact that we're still dating. We still, seek each other out in that way. What we're doing through God's work is setting an example of what love looks like, what marriage looks like according to his word. And something that I just thought of right now that we learn, again, through marriage courses and different relationship courses that we've done through the church is we've really, really learned about, the need for me to show my husband respect and the need for my husband to show me love. And on our fireplace, on either side of our wedding photo, we have those words there. She respects him and he loves her. And people who come into our home, they see that. They're drawn to our wedding picture, which is a pretty, big photo, but immediately they look to the left and they look to the right and they see those things. And again, it's not to give the facade of, we read the Bible together every night and, we're this perfectly married couple. No, we have our disagreements. We don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but we do see eye to eye on the important things, just like, serving God and understanding how God is using us to reach so many different people just by the examples of what we're doing and how we're trying to live. I could say we're trying to live our best life, right? Hashtag goals, but hashtag godly goals, hashtag godly marriage, hashtag living our godly best life. But that does not include the word perfection, because we know that we are not perfect creatures. But I would say that that is the purpose that God had in mind when he brought us back together after almost 10 years apart.
Just wanted to comment on what you left off on, or the thought process that you left off on, where, by no means do we want to sit here and say we are, for the people who are going to listen into on this, I don't want to give the impression when we use the terminology godly for that to kind of be like offensive or might scare people off, because at least for me, my definition of godly is not that, we're sitting here, we're holier than thou, and, kind of, well, I'm not going to take it there, but, following religious laws and principles to where like, oh no, you have to, say 3 Hail Marys and, full of grace. Like, that's not how we live our lives. It's not like we are in church every single Sunday and, we're Bible thumpers and we're, hitting people over the head with the Bible. So when you hear us use that terminology, having a godly marriage, godly principles, and what does God say, it's not like we're religious people.
We're not religious
right?
people.
It's our understanding that when it comes to our marriage, and actually a lot, like our pursuit of trying to live by the way God intended us to live as a family, right? Mm-hmm. And then as a married couple and how we relate to each other. So don't think when we throw that terminology out, we're saying, they're super religious and, like that's their lifestyle. No, like we have sinned. We have done a lot of the crazy stuff I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys who would be watching this have done. But we also recognize that, hey, there's another way to live. Like, there's a flip side to everything, right? There's good and bad for everything. So if you realize there's good and bad for everything, our terminology of godly is the right way, the good way, the intended way.
Yeah, God laid out his game plan for marriage in his word.
Yeah.
So when I say godly, again, that doesn't mean anything other than according to the word of God, period. Adding nothing else to that and taking nothing away from that. So godly just means that. Open up the Bible, and according to what is listed and written in his book, that's how we strive. That's what we're striving for. Have we reached there? No. Do we hope to get to a point where we are far better and far closer to that strategy that's listed? Absolutely. And so that's what it is that I feel that we are purposed to do. In addition to learning how to walk like Christ, we're learning how to do that through our marriage. And I believe that, Edwin being in my life for all this time makes me a better person and should make me a better person, and vice versa. I should be helping him in his walk with Christ. So that is what I believe our purpose is.
And, on my, the way I would answer that question is I don't have a clear picture of what God's purpose is for us, right? Based on our history and how it's clear that his hand has been on certain things throughout our relationship. But what I do feel and know is that there is a purpose. I believe I can't define it in details like I'm able to do other things, but I do feel that it's part of that purpose is for us to be leaders in, I guess, showing people how to pursue that proper relationship when it comes to marriage, when it comes to doing things the way he intended it. Because, prior to, us pursuing our relationship with God and learning the things that we learned, we all have our different views of marriage and what that should be. We all have our certain views of what a wife should be or what a husband should be based off of, our own experiences, what we saw growing up, what we didn't see growing up, right? But when you start looking at the Bible, right, and you start reading God's word, you start realizing that, wait a minute, the way that the world portrays marriage and husband and wife duties is very, very different or it's a very skewed version of what's actually in the Bible. And again, it's not so much being regimented and, again, holier than thou, but it's just reading it and saying, oh, wow, this is different than what my church taught me. This is different than what I saw growing up. This is different than, a lot of what's being taught in the world. And if you, read it, you can say, oh, wow, this is not that hard. This is not so ritualistic or anything like that. Like, in essence, it's very, very simple and it's plain and clear. And if I can just do this, hey, things will be good. Things will be great. So I think our purpose is, as we continue to grow, as we continue to learn, as we continue to strengthen our relationship, and be better versions of us, as a husband and as a wife, to be able to pass that knowledge on to others. And I believe, again, I don't have a clear vision of it, but I do believe that his intent for us is to have a platform for us to be able to share our knowledge, our experiences, and, the good and the bad, so that other people can see that, hey, this is something that's attainable. This is something that we can work towards. This is what they should try to strive for.
That reminds me of something that I heard Dr. Robin say many, many years ago. And she said, people do what is caught, not necessarily what is taught. And she made that comment in reference to when she was raising her 4 sons. But that always stuck with me because I believe that actions speak louder than words, right? So when we talk about, using our marriage as a way of teaching others, the best way we're going to be able to do that is through our actions toward one another, as opposed to sitting someone down and saying, okay, get your notebook out. Okay, so we're going to start checking things off of the list. Like, we can do that with our kids. We can do that with people around us. But that might not be as meaningful as them observing us,
Exactly.
not only in good times, but observing how we treat each other when things are not going that great. And I know that that's something that has been commented on, with different folks around us. So again, through whatever platform or whatever experiences that we might be put in, I believe there's always an audience. People are always watching, whether we know it or not, people are always watching us. And so again, we are not perfect. We are very, very far from being perfect, but we are continuously striving to do it the right way. And I think when people see that, that's something that they can believe in. That's something that they can hope for their own situations and their own marriages, because we've literally been through like a lot, just given the amount of time that we've known each other. Not necessarily.
And we haven't even told the whole story. Too.
Yeah,
we haven't got to where we've gotten married. We haven't talked
not
about
necessarily as a married couple, but just time-wise, knowing each other as long as we have. If we just take it from our dating story to now, 19 and then becoming parents at 20 until now, just in that time frame alone, we've experienced so much. And yet, because of God's hand being on us, because of our obedience to Him, we've been able to overcome. So if nothing more, anyone who's struggling or whatever the case is, don't strive for perfection, and don't strive for, just be your best version of yourself, but do it according to what the game plan that God already laid out. Because if we just follow those simple steps, just like you said, it's not hard. Just follow those simple steps as best as possible. And also knowing that we're going to fall short, things will be okay. I think that's the moral of the story here. One of the morals to the story.
One. I think there's many morals, but yeah, that's one. Yeah, I can agree with that.
What would you guys say is one of the greatest lessons you've learned so far in marriage?
So one of the greatest lessons I've learned a lot, but I would say overall, it kind of boils back to what I was saying a few minutes ago with our perceptions of what marriage is. So like with me growing up, the reason why I took getting married very, very important, and that was something that I didn't take lightly, is because, I grew up in a household with both parents, right? And, my parents, at the time my dad passed away, my parents were married for 41 years, I think at the time, or close to 40 years at the time, right? So, I got to see what I believed was a good marriage, right? Not to say that my parents didn't have a good marriage, but in my mind, from what I witnessed and from my memory, I believe I grew up in a household that was like the Huxtables, right? Like the Cosby Show. That was my perception growing up. But once I became of age and I started hearing and seeing certain things within my parents' relationship, I'm like, whoa, okay, maybe I didn't grow up in a Huxtable type of household. But that was planted in me, and it can't be erased. I realized that my parents had a lot of issues, throughout their 40 years of marriage, and that their marriage wasn't perfect. But I realized that as an adult, growing up, I had that vision. So what that did for me was I wanted that perfect, quote unquote, marriage. Or I shouldn't say perfect, but I wanted something that was close to perfect. Mm-hmm. I wanted it to look a certain way. Like I realized there would be issues, but I wanted it to look a certain way. And what I learned is that, one, how you start off a marriage is not going to be how it ends, or it's not going to be the same as you go through the marriage, right? There's different phases. But then two, what I also learned is that like our relationship just kind of like we went with the flow and it just evolved. A marriage, you have to work on a marriage. Mm-hmm. Especially, when we talk about long-term marriages, like a lot of people think like, okay, we just get married and we live the rest of our lives. Like that's what kind of like the American society kind of leads you to believe that fairy tale story, right? Oh, the princess, she met her prince and they lived happily ever after. But what's not talked about is that you still have two people, right, who are growing. And throughout the course of the happily ever after, those people change. You know, their interests change, your likes change. Like, if you're the same exact person you were 20 years ago, something is wrong with you, right? You know, like seriously, something is seriously wrong, because within 20 years, you should have evolved, you should have matured, you know, you should broaden your horizons. And, you know, the fact that happened with both of us, you know, what marriage taught me is that as you broaden your horizons, as you grow and change, as I grow and change, we still have to work on our marriage. It's not like, yeah, there will be times where things blend and mesh and click like easily without us having to do anything. It's just like, you know, it blends together. But then there's a lot of times where it doesn't blend together, and we literally have to work on that. We have to force it, whether it's communication, whether it's spending time with each other, especially when we talk about bringing in kids, you know, because they are a huge time. They consume a lot of your time, right? As parents, if you're doing it right, I shouldn't say right. You know, if you're investing time in your kids, but it needs to be worked on. A marriage, you have to be intentful. So you have to be intentful with how you view your marriage and how you continue to grow your marriage. It's like, actually, you know, here's the perfect analogy. Yeah, whatever. I know you don't like the analogies, but I love giving analogies, right? So the perfect analogy would be, it's like a plant, right? So when you look at a plant, there's certain things you need to give a plant in order for it to thrive, right? And then there's a certain things you need to continue doing, or you should continue doing those things so that the plant could continue to grow. So people think, okay, the love story ends when you get married, right? Because from the time you get together to the time you get married, it's like, okay, we're married.
We did it, finally.
We did it, and we're gonna live happy ever after. No, because if you stop watering that plant, right? So that plant eventually grows into a tree. Let's say the tree's 100-foot tall tree, right? Let's call it a red oak, and it's 100-foot tall. But if you stop giving it sunlight and water, it doesn't matter how strong the roots are or how deep the roots go. It doesn't matter how strong the bark is and the branches are. If you stop feeding it water and you stop giving it sunlight, it's gonna die. It's gonna wither away over time. It's not gonna happen right away, right? But you give it, after a week, you start seeing, with no water, you start seeing leaves falling, right? After 3, 4, 5 weeks, more leaves. And then, you know, over the course of, you know, I don't know, a few months without water, that tree is eventually going to rot out from the inside and then die, right? And fall over. Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with a marriage. Initially, if you're not continually to water and feed sunlight to your marriage, and my definition of that is consistently work on it. You know, there's like how we work on our marriage is going to be different than how other people are going to work on their marriage, because they have different issues and they have a different story, right? But the point is like a quick example would be communication. That's one of our, you know, that's one of the things where we are learning to overcome, and we're going to continue to learn to overcome together, right? But that's ours. For a different, you know, couple, you know, their issue that they need to learn how to overcome or consistently work on is, you know, something very different than ours. But the point is you have to work on it. You have to be intentful about it, and you have to invest time, money, and effort into it. And that time, money, and effort, going back to my analogy, would be the sunlight and the watering of that plant. So, you know, you have to feed your marriage, be very, very intentful. That's what I learned throughout marriage.
I concur. The main lesson that I've learned thus far is you have to make an intentional investment all the time. And that investment can look like 100 different things, but making an intentional investment and continuously renewing that commitment through that investment is the biggest lesson that I've learned.
That was absolutely beautiful. I love the tree analogy. I'm going to use that. I'll give you credit though. So one question that Luis and I both came up with, which is kind of funny. What advice would both of you guys give to someone who is currently in a co-parenting situation?
I would say my advice would be think about the best interest of the child or children at hand.
Hands down.
Think about what you want the end result to be, and every single action you take or every single action that you don't take should be contributing to that end result, which is hopefully a positive one. So if in the end, let's just say, from my perspective, when we were co-parenting Trey, in the end, I wanted Edwin to feel, even if he was in Iraq, even though I was living here and he was living there, I wanted Edwin to have the feeling of, like he had substance to his relationship with his son, right? So how does one do that? When they're on the phone, he could have easily been the dad that's like, oh, how was your day? It was good. Okay. No, I wanted Edwin to be able to say, hey, I saw your report card. Let's talk about that A that you got in science. Man, that's amazing. Like, tell me about that. Oh, I noticed that you got a D in, I don't know, math. So if you were able to get an A in science, you know, what could you do in your math class that you were already doing in your science class to bring up that grade? So I wanted Edwin to be able to have really meaty conversations with his son. When it came to like doctor's visits, letting Edwin know ahead of time, listen, Trey's gonna be going to the doctor. You know, he's scheduled for his, 5-year-old kindergarten shots. And I remember this coming up where Edwin was asking, well, what kind of shots are those? And I'm like, I don't really know. So before that medical appointment, I called the doctor's office to say, hey, can you send me a list of the vaccines Trey's gonna be receiving? And then sending it to him. So again, even though he was not physically with us, he could still have a say in what was going on with his son. And even though there were different times where there was a difference of opinion, I think you wanted him to be in sports. I didn't necessarily care for that, or maybe vice versa, but still having something to talk to each other about and having something for that parent who's not physically there with the child, primarily, that parent should still be able to have full conversations with their child, because that does two things. That reinforces the parent's role, the one who is not there for whatever reason. It reinforces that, look, I still have a voice and my voice is still valued. But most of all, for that child doesn't feel like they are missing out. That child doesn't have to feel that just because my dad is away at war, my dad is away in Iraq, my dad is wherever. We have children whose parents are incarcerated, their parents are in a foreign country. You know, there's all different circumstances why a parent might not be with their child, but that child should not be left feeling like they are less than because their parent is someplace else. Much like Edwin, I was raised in a 2-parent home. And, you know, I had the benefit and the blessing of having conversations with my mom and with my dad. And, you know, the relationship with each parent was different, but I had a relationship with each of my parents. And as a co-parenting parent, each parent should still feel valued and should still feel like they have a real relationship with their child. So my advice, again, is think about what you want your child to be. When your child is an adult, when your child becomes a parent, what feelings do you want your child to have? And what memories do you want your child to have? And make every decision based on that end result.
The question is a very good question. I'm going to take a slightly different approach, because before I can, the best advice that I can give anyone about co-parenting, right, is to take it a step back and try to prevent yourself from being in a situation where you are co-parenting, right? So, and this is me coming from the position of sitting in the position of where I'm at, and, you know, being older and more mature, have a ton of experience, you know, looking hindsight. So I would say we're going to back up a few steps, right? So when you're dating someone, right, I can say from my standpoint, you shouldn't necessarily put yourself in a position where you could potentially end up being a co-parent, aka sleeping with the other person, right? If you yourself aren't 100% sure that you can have some type of future or see some type of future with that person. And the way that I'm gonna explain that is like this. So like, from a guy's perspective, right? Because again, I was young and, you know, I lived it for a little bit.
Young, wild, and free.
I lived it for a little bit to where it's like, oh man, there's all these options out there, all these girls out here, right? And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of guys who will sleep with the girl knowing that this is not somebody you can see yourself having some type of potential future with, knowing that this person has different morals and values or just a different upbringing than you do. Like, y'all really don't have a lot to vibe on, but you are choosing to sleep with that person just for the simple fact of, she looks good, or he looks good, or he has money, or she has, some type of shallow or superficial thing that you like, right? Well, the end result, or the possible end result, is you end up getting that person pregnant, or you end up being the person that pregnant. So now you are you find yourself in a situation where you're co-parenting with someone who, at the end of the day, is not compatible, or is someone is not right for you, right? And then that leads to a ton of issues, right? Baby mama drama, baby daddy drama, and, constant fights, arguments, and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, like Wendy was saying, the person who suffers is the child, right? Because that's the one you should be putting first. So if you are in a situation like that, right, where for a fact you and your baby daddy or you and your baby mama should have never been together in the first place, but you're stuck, the predominant thought should be, okay, let me put my personal differences aside. Let me not make this about me, and let's make it about the child. And both of y'all have to at least come together to have that agreement. Agree on that.
Nothing else.
And nothing else. Exactly. And I'm pretty sure some people are going to be watching this and thinking, well, my baby daddy, he's just crazy. Like he just doesn't agree with this. Well, my baby mama, she's whatever. You could blame it on the other person, but this is where I say take a step back. You should, if you knew this person was not compatible with you, you shouldn't have been sleeping with them in the first place. Right? And again, I'm not going to go as far as to say, bring the godly side to it, right? Oh, you shouldn't have been fornicating before, your marriage. I understand the world that we live in. I live in that world, right? But something that I've always been very, very mindful of and cautious of ever since I was in middle school is like, within the first 2 to 3 weeks of me dating somebody, I already put that person in one or two categories. Yes, this is somebody I can see myself long-term with, or no, this is not. And I didn't do it because I was looking for a long-term relationship. I just wanted to make sure that me and that person had substance in that, like if we're going to be dating, there should be some type of substance. It should be more deeper than just, if I can say it,
stuff.
Sleep. Can I say SES? Right? It should be more than just sex, right? So if I'm dating somebody, okay, sex is only going to be fun. Well, I shouldn't say it's only going to be fun, but the sexual part of a relationship is only going to last but so long, right? Outside of that, there has to be some further substance. So, for those of you, to prevent yourself from being a co-parenting situation, make sure you at least having something in common, because I think that's what helped us be better or helped us to co-parent great, because at least there was we both valued the same things. There was substance to our relationship. Yeah. So yes, when it was time to, regardless of how I felt about you and regardless of how you felt about me, we could put our differences aside and focus on the child. All right, so I just wanted to preface that. Now, the actual advice is if you already made your decisions and you're stuck in that situation where you have to co-parent, the number one thing is put your personal feelings aside. He or she has to both people have to put their personal feelings aside and focus on what's the best thing for my child. Think about your child and how you want to raise your child, right? For some people, it's going to be, you want them to be raised differently than how you were because you knew how bad your childhood was. You want to offer something different. Great. For others is, hey, I want them to be raised the exact same way. Great. Whatever it is, focus on that and not your personal needs and wants and what, your other co-parent person needs and wants. And the reality about that, if you really truly understand what I'm saying there, the reality about that is you're gonna have to take an L, right? And what do I mean by you're gonna have to take an L?
Nobody gets everything that they want.
Exactly. So yeah, just because you're dad or just because you're mom doesn't mean you are, the ruler of that child, meaning everything you say has to go, forget what the co-parent says, right? At the end of the day, whatever you're disagreeing on. So for instance, we ran into this where I want, okay, perfect. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna have to go into this situation, right? So there was a situation where they were not living in Miami, right? They were living out of town. They came in town for X amount of time frame, and I was scheduled to have my son for this time frame, right? So I'm like, yeah, I'm planning things. Yep, I haven't seen him in a few months. Let's get this. I'm ready, waiting for him to come. They show up, and I forgot it was either somebody's birthday or some type of event that was happening in her family, and then that meant that he wouldn't be for me for the total amount of time that I wanted. And I was pissed. I'm like, my initial reaction is like, heck no, nah, like y'all been gone. I want him, blah, blah, blah. And again, I'm looking at the situation from my lens and my personal feelings. Nah, it's my time. It's this and that. I haven't seen him. He was with you for the last 4 or 5 months. Y'all were out of town. Now I've only got him for a week, or actually in that situation, I think it was a weekend. And now you're taking like 3/4 of a day out of a weekend. So I really have them from 1 day and 1/4. That's not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair, right? That was my perspective. But what was more important for him, for Trey, just as much as he wasn't around me for the last 3 or 4 months, he wasn't around his cousins and whatever event it was that was happening on her side of the family. And that's important for him to have those relationships with those people, just as important it is to have that relationship with me. So guess what? As a co-parent, I need to be able to set what I want. I want my son because notice the word I keep saying I, right? Because that's what you're probably doing too. Let's think about this. What's best for your child? Is it best for him to have a relationship or develop a relationship and influence there or with me? And the reality is it's both, because there were 2 days. So if I have to give 1 day up for him to develop a relationship with his cousins on her side, right? And then the second day he develops the relationship with me or have that bond, then so be it. I have to take the L in that situation. The reverse could be the same, sometimes as the mom, usually, especially in the state of Florida where we live, the moms usually get custody. So sometimes the mom has to be able to make that conscious decision. Oh, we just got to Miami and I want to take him somewhere. I want to take him shopping. I want to take him to thing, but knowing dang well that he hasn't been with his, father, the other co-parent for X amount of time. Sometimes you got to take that, you got to take that L. And I think if the parents within a co-parenting situation adopt that mentality and they just think to themselves, listen, okay, we got ourselves into this situation, right? And now we have to live it out. And by default, living it out means that there are going to be times where co-parent dad takes an L and not get his way. And there's going to be times where mom has to take an L and not get her way. If you're able to embrace that, understand it, I think that will help relieve some of the tensions in a co-parenting situation.
I think that was awesome. And I just want to say, Edwin didn't say it, but you should not be having sex before marriage. Edwin said he understood the world that we live in, and I understand it. But Ludi behind the camera.
Thank you.
You guys know. You should not be having sex. God says we should not fornicate for a reason.
I agree.
Everyone is politically correct. I am not. I'm letting y'all know. Don't do it.
No, wait. So I'm glad you said that, right? And I didn't say it because I was trying to be politically correct. I didn't say it because whoever's watching this video, you don't know me, right? So I don't want you thinking I'm sitting here holier than thou trying to tell you not to do something that I did. Yeah. And then now you're viewing me as, he's being a hypocrite. He's being a hypocrite because he had a child out of wedlock, So that's the only reason why I didn't say it. But yeah, I 100% now, me being the more mature, older, and wiser me, I firmly believe that. But I just didn't want to just, throw that out there for the people who don't know me and they're like, oh, man, I'm not listening to that dude. Whatever.
I feel like, side note, y'all, right? I feel like because of where you're coming from, you're even more qualified to say that. I feel like for me, I wasn't a virgin when I got married. I'm qualified to say wait. For someone who's a virgin telling you to wait, you might be like, but you don't even know. Why are you we've been through that and we've seen dang, I should have waited. Mm-hmm. We've had the experience. And I think experience is what qualifies you as wise. not just speaking from your opinion, but you have the proven experience to say,
Right.
you guys didn't wait. All of this stuff happened. God redeemed it because he's a restorer. But for you to
Amen.
say, you know what? If you have not gotten to this point, shut it down now.
Well,
The next
absolutely.
person that
I
comes, hey, I'm
I agree.
waiting until marriage to have sex, then I think don't allow it to feel like you're not. I feel like you guys are perfectly the people to say it, and it can't be looked at as a hypocritical. It could be looked at, well, yeah, he's been through it, so
Yeah.
if I should listen to anyone, it should probably be this guy because
Yeah.
he went through it, he did it, and looking back, he's like, yeah, don't do it, bro. So I think that actually qualifies you.
Okay. I
But,
appreciate hearing that perspective.
Yeah, this was amazing. I just want you guys to pray for the people who are going to be watching. And I pray that you guys have enjoyed Edwin and Wendy, because Luis and I have been in the background like, oh my God, this has been amazing. So I know that they've been a blessing to you guys. So Edwin and Wendy, if you guys could pray for the people. Whatever the Lord leads you guys can both pray, or one of you guys can pray, whatever the Lord leads you
Go ahead,
for the
you kick
people
it off.
watching.
I'll end it. I'll wrap it up.
Heavenly Father, we come before you today and we ask you, we first want to thank you, Lord, for giving us this opportunity to share our love story, our reconnected love story, Lord. And just thank you for speaking through us today. We thank you for blessing everyone who is within earshot of our voices. We ask that you continue to bless them. We know that they are seeking out information to better themselves, better their marriages, better their future marriages, Lord. So we thank you in advance for your hand on all of those marriages, on all of those individuals who are watching and listening in hopes of leading a godly life and a godly marriage.
Lord, we ask that, as Wendy said, everyone who hears our voice, that you help them and you guide them towards whatever your purpose and intent is for them when it comes to their relationships, when it comes to their marriage. We know that, some people who are watching this could be in the exact same situation we were when we first got pregnant with Trey. We understand that there's some people who would be watching this who are where we're at now. You're already married and you're trying to figure out how to make your marriage better, or you're just thinking, is this all there is? Whatever their situation is, Lord, we just pray and ask that you help guide them, you give them the resources, you help shape their mind towards finding, or should I say pursuing, your version and your original intent of what a relationship is, what a marriage is, and everything and beyond. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. That was beautiful.
Well, we are the Jean-Francois. We are the Jean-Francois. And we...
Who's Jean-Francois?
Stop.
Who's Jean-Francois?
Stop it. Okay. Cut. And 1, 2, 3. We are the Jean-Francois, and we've been reconnected in love.